Hello, Connects You, and welcome to Week 7. This week we are going to talk about the show, do, and demonstrate. In other words, we're going to ask you to prove what you know. So we've already talked about setting goals. We've talked about planning those goals and how to set up a plan. We've also talked about the actual learning and things that you can do to help that to make that a little bit easier. Now we're going to talk about showing, right? So traditionally, in a classroom, this is where you take the quizzes and the tests, right? The key word for this week is monotony. Mono, M-O-N-O, typically means one, okay? So monotony means doing the same one thing over and over again. So traditionally, if you're sitting in a school and your teacher's up front and he's talking, or your teacher has you sit down and you work on packets quietly, that becomes monotonous, that becomes boring, okay? Monotony is the lack of variety and interest. It's tedious repetition and routine. Now, monotony in school comes from quizzes. It comes from essays. It comes from tests. It comes from quizzes. It comes from essays. It comes from tests. It comes from all of these over and over and over again. So I want you to think of a school experience. When is it time to show what you've learned? Do you feel that you have a choice in what you create to demonstrate your understanding of a topic? Or is it typically going to be the same quiz? Is it going to be the same test? Is it going to be the same worksheets? So this week, what we're going to do is we're going to identify different creative alternatives to essays and reports. You are going to use one of these alternatives to create an instructional piece to inform others about a topic that interests you. In other words, we're going to let you kind of explore. Now, we're going to show what you know by using the web and mobile apps. In other words, you don't always have to settle for writing an essay, unless, of course, your English teacher or your social studies teacher says in a 500-word essay. But even then, I encourage you in cyber school to ask and say, is there another thing that I can do? Because, I mean, if we look, the greatest basketball players, the greatest actors, the greatest creative minds didn't get there because they wrote. They got there because they did something else. All right? Michael Jordan practiced dribbling the basketball and taking foul shots and taking three-pointers over and over and over again. He didn't write essays about taking three-pointers. All right? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, all of the pioneers in technology didn't write essays about different things. They actually put it together and they did it. So that's what we want you to be. We want you to be the next Zuckerberg. We want you to be the next Michael Jordan. So step outside of that comfort zone and instead of writing, think about other things that you can do. Could you make a video? Could you make a slide presentation that's dynamic? Could you write a song? Could you write lyrics? Could you do any of these things? Would you want to do an audio recording instead of a speech, or instead of an essay? Anytime you want to ask your instructor if you can complete an alternative assignment. All right, I can tell you this: I teach both English and social studies, and I read the same essays over and over and over again. I'm bored of them. If someone said, "Mr. Bainey, can I please do a recording instead, or can I make a video about this instead?" I promise you my answer will be yes. Share your ideas so your instructor can provide suggestions and requirements. So if you wanted to do an audio version of something, you can send me a text and say, well, how would I do that? And I can give you a walkthrough on how exactly to do that. All right? Now, obviously, your alternative projects have to address the same objectives as the original essay. So you're still answering the same things, you're just providing a different format of turning that in. So this week, I want you to think of your school experience. When is it time to show what you've learned? How do you feel that you have a choice in what you create to demonstrate your understanding of the topic? And I want you to go ahead and explain that. So again, think about it of your school experiences, and when do you think it's time to show what you've learned? And do you feel that you have a choice in what you've created to demonstrate your understanding? So as you do this, if you have any questions, please reach out to me and let me know. Thanks.